vitality and energy to our writing. That's why we use them in our essays or in our academic writings so that our writing becomes more persuasive and convincing one. Here we go. There are certain words that give general explanation of the idea. That whatever we are talking about, they explain it. So for that, there is an expression in order to. Whenever we are going to explain something, we use the word in order to. In order to understand the current economic crisis of Pakistan, we need first to study and understand the discouraging factors, either domestic or external, in the wake of war on terror. So, this in order to makes us alert that we are going to explain something. In other words, that also explains mean if we say one thing in a statement, it and we need to or we wish to explain it more, then we use the expression in other words. That is to make an emphasis also. Frogs are amphibians. In other words, they live on the land and in the water. So this is explanation. In other words, gives explanation of amphibians, but that you see is introduction to the defining part of amphibians. There is another expression to put it another way, that is equal to in other words. Plants rely on photosynthesis, to put it another way, or in other words, you can use either of these construction. You can say in other words, you can say put it another way. That is to say, this also, that is to say, this is to say, to add further details. Economic crisis of Pakistan is very serious. That is to say, it needs genuinely effective policies of encouraging business friendly atmosphere. That is to say, explanation of the issue. I mean, if there is a serious crisis, then there is need to go for explanation that talks about the solutions. To that end, here to that end also equal to in order to or so. It can be to this end also. Zoologists have long sought to understand how animals communicate with each other. To that end, or you can say to that end. Here to that end also equal to in order to or so. It can be to this end also. Zoologists have long sought to understand how animals communicate with each other. To that end, or you can say in order to study. So to that end, a new study has been launched that looks at elephant sounds and their possible meanings. So the zoologists are trying to understand the communication of animals. So to that end, new study has been launched. Then adding additional information to support a point. So for that we use expression like moreover, furthermore. What is more, these expressions are equally or interchangeably used. Moreover, the developments on the international front underscore the significant shift in the policy of the USA regarding its international entanglements. It means, moreover says that you have said, you have spoken on this topic in previous part, and then you add further. Therefore, you say moreover. Furthermore, similarly used in the way of moreover. And what is more is also used in the same way. What is more, this isn't the only evidence that supports the belief that democracy in Pakistan is deepening further its roots. Mean you have given other evidences also, and you add further. You say that here is more information to that. You say what is more. Likewise, similarly, they are used interchangeably. They have the same function, mean to add further or extra information. The international neutral bodies on economic development have expressed their satisfaction at the optimistic signs of Pakistani economy. Likewise, or similarly, you add further, the recent economic indicators too endorse optimism. Another key to another key fact or key thing to remember, mean another point that is also adding extra point. Here, this is a statement. Pakistan enjoys very much significant geostrategic location, being a neighbor to an emerging economic power China and the world's highest populated erstwhile enemy India, an over ambitious country. Another key point to remember, these are the important factors. Another key point to remember is that Pakistan has not only the warm water deep sea port but also a shortest link route to the Middle East, with which it has a strong connection of universal Muslim brotherhood. So when you are adding some other point, you said that another key point to remember, it means you make your reader alert that you have more to say on that topic, as well as used like also and. You can use and, you can use also. It depends on the structure. Democracy has begun showing because of respect of various institutions for political government, as well as media has become vibrant and watchful about democracy. And or also you can use here. Not only but also, that is correlative conjunction used in pair form in order to give extra piece of information. We say not only this but also that, mean we say about one thing and we at the same time say about another thing also. So we use not only but also when we are going to say about two things. And not only whenever it comes in a sentence, it means your reader becomes alert that the writer is going to speak about two things. Not only did Edmund Hillary have the honor of being the first to reach the summit of Everest, but he was also appointed Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire. So it is another point that you have added. If there was only single point, you need not to say not only. Then only Edmund Hillary had the honor of being the first to reach the summit of Everest, full stop. Because you are adding another point, that's why you say it creates emphasis also, not only this but also that. So there is emphasis and there is extra information. Okay, coupled with, like not only but also, when we are going to say two things together, we say coupled with. Coupled with literary evidence, the statistics paint a compelling view of social growth of Pakistani society. You can say not only the literary evidence, but also the statistics paint a compelling view of social growth of Pakistani society. So they can be interchangeably used when you are going to talk about two things. Firstly, secondly, and thirdly. These expressions are used in a paragraph when we are going to talk about more than two things, two or more than two things. And those things are in unison to support your argument. In fact, your a single argument in to support your single argument, there are further evidences or example that you come up with or cases you come up with. You say first, second, third, firstly, secondly, thirdly, and lastly. The last point always is, you see, indicated through lastly. One more important thing is when you say firstly, it means there would be secondly also. When you say secondly, it means there could be thirdly or lastly point also. So it gives your reader an indication that you are going to talk about more than one point or more than 2 points at least. Like there are many points in support of this view. There are many points. It can be 3, 4, 5 points. Firstly, secondly, and thirdly, lastly. Not to mention, to say nothing else means something is so important that one cannot miss. At that time, we say not to mention. The war caused unprecedented suffering to millions of people, not to mention its impact on the country's economy. I mean, that is for sure there, and besides that, millions of people have suffered. So, not to mention makes it highlighted. Okay, there are certain words and phrases that go in contrast, mean they come up with opposite meaning. Whenever we are going to write something that has opposite elements or factors, we use words and phrases of contrast. Like, however, on the other hand, having said that, and they can be used interchangeably. Pakistan has experienced the transition of power from one political government to the other through successive three general elections. This is optimism. However, mean there is, we need to be alert. There are yet things to be done. Yet, it will take some time for the political governments to establish the supremacy of civilian rulers. Means these successive elections are not enough. Yet there is a lot to go. That's why you say, however. The historical evidence appears to suggest a clear cut situation. On the other hand, or having said that, you, there is clear cut suggestion, but there is something different. The archaeological evidence, historical says so, but archaeological, you can say but also here. The archaeological evidence presents a somewhat less straightforward picture of what had happened that day. You can use expressions like by contrast, in comparison, when we are going to make contrast or comparison between two things. Some people believe that co-education has little advantages. By contrast, however, you can say however also. This system of education has proven more useful and effective for grooming personalities of the young students. Now, this is different from the first one, or this is opposite to the first argument. First argument said that there are little advantages. By saying by contrast or however, you say otherwise, mean opposite to that. Then again, that said, these are interchangeably used, and when we use these expressions when there is a kind of doubt on some assertion or some statement. Some people believe that democracy is a culture and it's difficult for democracy to offer its true fruits to the Muslim societies. Then again, you cast a doubt on this, mean you do not believe in this. It seems a subjective approach. Mean this is not objective statement, this is subjective. You say by saying then again, that said, it seems a subjective approach. Yet, used in the same way for contrast, much of scholarship has focused on this evidence. Mean too much focus have been given, yet there is some means yet there are things to be done. Not everyone agrees that this is the most important aspect of the situation. So there is disagreement also. Provided that, or if it is conditional, we may use this as evidence to support our argument. Provided that, or if Otherwise, we must bear in mind the limitations of the methods used to obtain it. So, provided that makes a condition, we can use the evidence to support our argument, but provided there is a condition, you say provided that we bear in mind the limitations of the methods used to obtain it, mean there can be issues. In view of, in light of, mean if whatever we say earlier, in the light of that, or in the perspective of that, whenever we want to add something, either in contrast or in support, we say in view of. In light of the evidence from 2013 study, we have a better understanding of the US decision of drawdown of its forces from Afghanistan. Nonetheless, nevertheless, and notwithstanding, they are used interchangeably, and they give the meaning of despite. Media in Pakistan shows clearly marked lines of inclination towards various interest groups. Now, nonetheless, you can say nevertheless, you can say notwithstanding, it has contributed good enough for strengthening the institutions. More examples we have used here nevertheless, and we have used notwithstanding in the beginning. So you can use nonetheless, nevertheless, and notwithstanding in this way, and they are used in for same reason, despite this, mean for contrast. Giving example. If we are going to give example to prove or support our argument, then we use certain expressions like, for instance, some birds migrate to avoid harsher winter climates. This is our claim. Swallows, for instance, leave the UK in early winter and fly south. This is evidence example that we come up. So then you say, for instance. To give an illustration, need to explain. To give an illustration of what I mean you have said something earlier, then you say what I mean. Let us look at the case of Mukhtara Mai, who was subjected to ghastly inhuman violence because of the prevalent feudal mindset. So it means before this you've been talking about the harshness or violence against women, either it is societal or it is domestic violence you are talking about, and you come up with an example. You say to give an illustration, and you cite the case of Mukhtara Mai like this. Okay, if you are going to signify importance of something, mean you want to indicate or you want to sensitize your reader that you are going to say something more important further, you say certain words: significantly, notably, importantly. So your reader becomes alert that you are going to say something. If we do not use such expressions, still okay, but your writing becomes engaging. You keep your reader going on with you. Significantly, the third time successive transition of power from one civilian government to the other after the general election is going to count much for the democratic forces to root themselves better. Significant. I mean, this is significant that because history of Pakistan is we do not see, and we haven't seen three consecutive or successive, you see, transition of power from one civilian government to the other through election. Often we saw martial laws. Actual figures are notably absent from the array argument that the student has attempted to develop. Importantly, used in the same way, the way we have used significantly here, this is same statement. So, importantly or significantly, they can be placing importantly in the beginning makes us sensitive that we are going to say something important. Okay, when we are going to summarize, there are certain expressions that must be used, like in conclusion, above all, persuasive, compelling, all things considered. In conclusion, we are going to conclude the statement. In conclusion, the evidence points almost exclusively the dividends the CPEC is expected to offer to the people of Pakistan. So, you have come up with the evidence points in the debate before this, and then you conclude it, and you say in conclusion you sum up it. Above all means you have said many things, but there is some the final point you say above all. Above all, it is likely that mass awareness about the climatic changes will play effective part beside the initiatives taken by the world powers to look for other eco-friendly options. Mean mass awareness is also very much important. That is above all, because unless people take part into that, initiatives taken by world powers may not suffice. Persuasive, compelling, they are interchangeably used when we are going to say something that is very much significant, and that is strong or stronger enough to compel or to persuade the reader. We say persuasive. The educational policies of the government seem more persuasive of its superiority claim for health and education. Here again, compelling, same statement. You can place compelling or persuasive, any of the two. All things considered, like above all, when we have taken everything into consideration, then we come to conclusion. It seems reasonable to assume that Pakistan has to review its foreign policy paradigm for gaining more support and recognition of its services during the war on terror. So we need to, all things considered, mean the total debate says that Pakistan should do this. Thank you very much for watching the video lecture.